Hi, and welcome to Session 5, Part 1, Linked Learning, Innovative Thinking, and 21st Century Literacy. The objectives of this session are for you to be able to explain what linked learning is, what it isn't, and the four key components of linked learning. You should also be able to identify why linked learning is an important initiative with which secondary teachers should be familiar, and you should be able to discuss connections between linked learning, the P21 framework, which we'll be reading about this week, project-based learning, which you'll be watching a video about, and literacies, the topic of this course. So let's start with what is linked learning, the million-dollar plus question. Linked learning is a successful approach to education based on the idea that students work harder and dream bigger if their education is relevant to them. The linked learning approach integrates rigorous academics that meet college-ready standards with sequenced high-quality career technical education, work-based learning, and supports to help students stay on track. So rigorous academics means A through G requirements, which we'll talk about in a second, career and technical education, work-based learning, and those student supports. For linked learning students, education is organized around industry sector themes and pathways. The industry theme is woven into lessons taught by teachers who collaborate across subject areas with input from working professionals. And those lessons are reinforced by work-based learning with real employers. This makes learning more like the real world of work and helps students answer the questions, why do I need to know this? There are four core components of linked learning. The first is rigorous academics. And as I mentioned, rigorous academics means meeting the A through G requirements. So rigorous academics prepare students to take college courses and meet the admission standards for California's public universities. The second core component is a sequence of high-quality career technical education courses. So these are taken as elective courses, and they deliver concrete knowledge and skills, emphasizing real-world applications of academic learning. And they're taken sequentially, so each year should build upon itself. The third core component is work-based learning in real-world workplaces via job shadowing, apprenticeships, internships, externships, and other professional skill-building opportunities. So generally in linked learning pathways, there is a work-based learning coordinator, and that person helps to coordinate opportunities for students to learn not only in the classroom, but in the workplace. And the fourth core component is comprehensive supports and services that are embedded as central components of a program to ensure that all students stay on track and graduate ready to transition to the next phase of their education or career, it should say. So wherever linked learning students decide to go, whether it be directly to post-secondary education or straight to the career, they should be able to know the ways in which they can make those transitions through these comprehensive supports and specialized services. There are 15 linked learning pathways according to the California CTE standards, and they're listed for you here. And linked learning is happening throughout the state of California. This illustration shows some of the high schools throughout the state that are integrating linked learning pathways and pedagogies. And these are the certified linked learning pathways. So college and career readiness preparation is happening even in more areas than this. So linked learning isn't a program or curriculum that will look the same at every site. Linked learning doesn't look the same even in the Long Beach sites, right? It's an approach to learning and not a structured curriculum or program. It also isn't traditional vocational education. So one of the reasons that linked learning has had trouble getting traction in more traditionally high-performing areas is because vocational education has traditionally been a track that is not compatible with college prep. And so linked learning isn't traditional vocational education. It's looking to prepare students for both college and career. Linked learning isn't based only on being cross-curricular or any other single component. So you don't have a linked learning pathway just because you are cross-curricular or just because you integrate real-world examples into your curriculum. Linked learning is a combination of all of the core factors that we identified. In preparing students for college and preparing students for standardized tests, there's an awareness that teachers must address their content area standards. And those standards don't always lend themselves. Not every concept in every grade level standard is going to lend itself to a work-based learning application. And linked learning recognizes that. Not all standards are going to be lend themselves to a cross-curricular unit. But where there are applications of the course of study in a career-based or career-aligned curriculum, that's where linked learning comes in. So I don't want you to think that if you walk into a linked learning classroom or a classroom in a linked learning pathway, it's always going to look like it's always going to have cross curricular, it's always going to have project based learning. Sometimes it may look like a more traditional classroom and integrate more traditional pedagogies because it depends on the day, like any initiative, and because it's not a strict program, linked learning classrooms are going to look different from day. So, how does linked learning support your work? So, one reason that we are emphasizing linked learning in the credential program is that linked learning is the model of all high schools in Long Beach Unified School District. So, all high schools are now transitioning to career pathways, and Long Beach Unified is moving towards wall to wall linked learning instruction, which means every student will be in some type of pathway, and those pathways will be aligned to career and technical education area sector. It's also important to know about linked learning because linked learning is a model that is being adopted and endorsed at the state level. So not just within Long Beach Unified, but as we look in the state, college and career readiness and that joint preparation is something that is being heralded at the state as a model to look at in secondary education. And there's a lot of money going towards college and career readiness type program as a part of delivering 21st century. Linked learning is also important because it makes collaboration central to your work as a teacher. And a lot of times we think about teaching as being able to shut the door of our classroom and teach what we want to, but that's not what really happens in the working world. And so it's important for us to model the way that we would like our students to be able to work in the 21st century workplace. Linked learning also promotes the critical thinking and application of knowledge by both students and teachers. So it makes us as teachers think outside of the box, and it also helps our students to think outside of the box so that they really understand how the concepts that they're learning are relevant to their future success, either in college or the workplace. So you're reading about the P21 framework and project-based learning this week. How does linked learning connect with those initiatives? So in terms of the P21 framework, there are a lot of crossovers between linked learning and the framework. Part of the P21 framework is the idea of core subjects and 21st century themes. And those core subjects are your traditional disciplinary areas or discipline areas. So math, English, world languages, arts, history, etc. And so linked learning obviously has that component in rigorous academics. But another part of the 21st century themes include global awareness, financial literacy, civic literacy, and a lot of these things are also core components of the workplace as well as school. A second part of the P21 framework is learning and innovation skills. And learning and innovation skills require students to think creatively and be able to innovate. So they have to think outside of the box. And in a traditional form of education, a lot of thinking is inside the box and recitation and memorizing things through lecture. And that's not actually what's required in the 21st century. And so linked learning really emphasizes creativity and innovation, critical thinking and problem solving, communication and collaboration. These are all really important learning and innovation skills. Another core aspect of the P21 framework is information, media, and technology skills. So that includes information literacy, being able to assess and evaluate information, which is a core part of critical literacy. It includes media literacy, right? Also, how do you apply a critical lens to what you're seeing in the media? How do you distinguish legitimate versus fake news sites, and then information and communications technology literacy, which is how do you use technology in effective ways in order to gain the resources and create the products that you want. Linked learning and the P21 framework also emphasize life and career skills. So these are soft skills that are really important to our lives outside of school. Flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction, social and cross-cultural skills, productivity and accountability, leadership and responsibility. These are all the skills that we actually need to function in the workplace and in our lives. And sometimes those types of skills can be underdeveloped in traditional school settings. And so by working in a linked learning setting, you really get to emphasize and develop those life and career skills. And then finally, the last part of the P21 framework is the 21st century support systems. And that has a lot of overlap with the types of support systems that students need in order to be successful within a linked learning model. In terms of project-based learning, at the core of project-based learning are inquiry-driven learning and authentic problem solving connected to academic skills. And these are both core to linked learning as well. A lot of times there will be, for example, an engineering challenge in an engineering pathway, or if you were to do product design and marketing. You might have to think about how you would market a new product. And these are things that don't have a single answer, but are driven by this creativity and innovation, and are driven by real world concerns that ask students to think outside of a box. And that's the same type of thinking that you'll see in this week's PBL video as well. So you may have seen already the overlaps between linked learning and literacies, but just a few more connections here. There are embedded literacies in the P21 framework, as I just discussed: media literacy, informational literacy, communications and technology literacy, health literacy, financial literacy. So all of those literacies are embedded in the P21 framework itself and connected with linked learning. But there are also high literacy requirements for the traditional and core academic content that's necessary for rigorous academics. There are high literacy requirements to facilitate communication, collaboration, presentation, and specialized pathway vocabulary. So if you're going to be a teacher, you need to know what words like pedagogy, curriculum, and instruction mean. If you're going to be an engineer, you've got to learn terms related to thermodynamics, perhaps, and structural integrity, right? If you're going to be a doctor, you have to learn terms related to medicine, and there are specialized pathway vocabularies that students need that are a part of their literacy. But you also have to know how to communicate with others within your field and be able to present your findings in real workplace setting. Finally, there's literacy of the workplace required to thrive in professional settings, as I noted, right? You have to be able to navigate the political nature of professional settings, the dispositional nature that you need in professional settings, how you dress in professional settings. Those are all part of making meaning of the settings that you're in. So again, a reminder, the objectives of this session that you should be able to explain what linked learning is, what it isn't, and the four key or core components of linked learning, identify why it's important to secondary teachers, and then discuss the connections between linked learning, the P21 framework, PBL, and literacy. Hopefully you're able to do that. I look forward to talking to you more about linked learning and working with you on your linked learning based assessments over the next few weeks. Thanks.